There it is, right there. And you got a pass, and it's intercepted in the end zone. You're going to get a close-up view of this. We're asking, would you throw your flag for defensive holding? I want you to listen to the question very carefully. I'll show it again. We're asking, would you throw your flag for defensive holding on this play? One more time here. Here it is. Would you throw your flag for defensive holding? All right, cool. You know, we talk a lot about advantage, disadvantage here. And if you remember, there's this little caveat in the book that talked about, you know, the rule book. It talks about offensive pass interference and defensive pass interference in high school. What you can and can't ignore, or defensive holding is this one, like where if it doesn't go towards that particular player, sometimes you can ignore it. But on for defensive, because the defense doesn't know, offense does know the play. But this is one that it does definitely deserve some discussion, because there's three players in the pattern. Now, looking at the quarterback, is the quarterback looking at that player? I don't know. It's hard to tell. You would have to be a back judge to really understand or know if that player was the potential receiver. Was he always looking at the deep one and not even looking at that one in the middle? Because if he's not, does that affect whether we make this call for defensive holding? Because the reason why I worded it the way I did is because I don't think there's any doubt if we say, is this holding or not? I mean, it's a takedown. I mean, he's got him behind. He's trying to push him. He's kind of taking him down. I mean, this is definitely something we could call. But in the end, if it doesn't have any effect and they weren't even looking at him, should we call? Now, Bill, bringing you in on this, we talk about advantage, disadvantage a lot, but we also need to be very careful about embarrassing ourselves when something like this might be way out in the open and everybody can see, and we don't call it, but everyone's wondering, and then you have an interception, and that then now sometimes can open the door to scrutiny because this is so big. So on a play like this, would you call this holding, or would you throw your flag, I should say? And if not, or if why, how would you process it?
Good points on it already. The key thing being is, because I'm in that philosophy that said, if I know he never looked at this guy, then there's no effect, and holding's not a safety foul. There's also that belief that says when something's this out in the open, not to call it really hurts your credibility, especially then when one that's not as strong gets called and it goes against the other team. And they're wondering why couldn't we get this call, but you called that other one against us. So there's an argument both ways. The key thing I'd be looking for is, what's the official telling me he saw? If he said, hey, I don't care about it being a hold, the quarterback never looked that way, I'll support him 100%. If he said the quarterback was looking that way, or it was so big, it was embarrassing not to call it, I'd support the call there too. I mean, I hate to take a middle of the road thing, but it would have to do with what the official tells me he saw or didn't see on the play.
No, and I that's a good way to look at it. What are we seeing? In fact, let's go back to the play, because this is a crew of five, and this is a tough one when we have trips. This is always the thing we discuss in regards to who's looking at what. And in this one, you've got trips to the bottom. So you know that the whether, I don't know, it's at the H or the L at the bottom, it looks like it's probably the L. They are going to have a number of receivers, and the B is going to. But nobody is threatened at the snap. There is no competitive matchup right off the bat. So as it goes, we're zoning this up. So if you are that line of scrimmage official, where are you going? if you're the back judge, where are you going? The back judge probably should be going there because the matchup above this, there is not really going to be anything because it's running wide in the wide open. So there's nothing to watch there. The back judge should be going to this middle. Our line of scrimmage official may not see it because he's got a player standing in front of him, and now he's got that potential matchup in front of him. This is the back judge in a 5-person. This is a back judge call all the way. The back judge has to see this, and the back judge is the one who needs to rule on whether or not they're going to go with it, because in the end, it does go back to kind of what Bill was saying. Do you see where the quarterback was throwing or not, or is it big enough? Personally, on this play, I'm probably going to throw on this because it's way out in the open. And what is different for me, I think, is that the ball went that direction. I think if that was just kind of a one-on-one matchup on its own and nobody was watching that over there, like the world wasn't watching that, they were all focused on the other side of the field because that pass went to the other side of the field, then I can kind of, in my mind, in my philosophy, I can kind of let it go. I can kind of say like, well, that was only me and the 2 guys knew that this happened. Nobody else really did because everybody was looking on the other side of the field. This one, since it happens to that side and it's in everybody's frame of view when they're looking and they see this wide open, this crazy tackle almost, that's probably why I'm going to throw. And then it turns out it ends up being an interception, and now we are going to end up giving we're going to talk about penalty enforcement on this in just a second. We'll end up giving the ball back to the offensive team since it was this defensive foul. Now, Bill, does that play into a factor? I mean, the fact that it was intercepted or not, does that matter because we should be calling it before the result of the play?
No, I mean, you can't. The interception means nothing to me. I wouldn't care if he caught it for a touchdown. I wouldn't care if it was the interception. I wouldn't care if it's an incomplete pass. Your point of it being towards the same area out in the open, it's a foul that needs to be called for our credibility.
Yeah, I just think that's.
Here's the other thing. This could be, I agree totally about it being the back judges, but depending on formations and routes and everything else, what if this was the back judge is going to call it? What if it was something now that the line judge is responsible for calling, or the head linesman, linesperson? Are we going to be consistent as a crew for our philosophy on what we're going to call for defensive holding or not? That's a thing that we have to work on with our crews if we're working with the same people week to week.
Right. I mean, and that's a good thing to consider. How are we going to be consistent with this one way or the other? So going back to the play, I've been asked about penalty enforcement. Apparently, we keep having issues with penalty enforcement. So let's just say we had a holding here, all right? So we got defensive holding, and we've got an interception. What's the result of the play? Interception. The foul occurs during the loose ball play. Loose ball play. So we're going to go back to the previous spot on this one. And remember, in high school, we're going to walk that 10 yards off. And if you notice, this looked like to be whatever down it was in 20. This will not get us an automatic first down in high school. Don't be talked into that, okay? High school, the defensive holding is not an automatic first down. So 10 yards, loose ball play, previous spot, and we replay the down on this one.